Hello everyone, welcome to the Gosh Mental Health Awareness Week guest speaker event. Today we'll be looking at a couple of practices to handle anxiety and other challenging emotions. We're joined by David Pagnotta, who is the co-founder of Vice Humanity. Vice Humanity is an organization dedicated to helping people unlock their inner resources, break through self-limiting beliefs, and live authentic, fulfilling lives for themselves and society as a whole. Davide, a very warm welcome. I said David instead of Davide.
No worries.
You can see my anxiety is already kicking in right before the talk. Very warm
you.
welcome. We're thrilled to have you here. To our viewers, do send questions for Davide in the chat box. And Davide, the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much, Jackson. So let's talk about anxiety. And so the theme of this, when we were talking about, okay, this is a mental health week and we focused on anxiety, we're thinking, okay, could be a good title? And I thought of emotional hygiene, because if you feel that you're unprepared to handle your emotions, if you feel like there's a storm like in your head, in your heart, you don't know what to do, and it's haunting you like daily or at night as well, and you feel like you don't have enough tools to deal with it, don't panic, because nobody does.
This is good to know.
Nobody does. So one big limitation of particularly of the Western society is that when we're little, they teach us how to, if we scratch our leg or something, they teach us how to put a band-aid on top of it. And when we're little, they also teach us how to take care of our teeth, with dental hygiene.
Yes.
And that way, maybe, for the greater part of our lives, we won't need a dentist.
Yeah.
But nobody teaches us how to handle our inner world.
So true, yeah.
The thoughts in our head, like uncontrolled, uncontrollable thoughts in our head, and our emotions.
Yeah.
So that's why I like to call it emotional hygiene. And there's so much that we can learn and so much that we can do to take care of our emotional well-being, so that, maybe we'll never break down and we'll never need a therapist. Like we may never need a dentist the same way. So today I'd like to talk about some simple but very effective tools that we can use to tackle anxiety.
Sounds good.
And I've devoted my life to this kind of education, right? I just said nobody teaches us these things, and I'm a physicist, and I worked for 20 years for corporations in the different engineering sectors, and then I found out these tools, and I thought, wow, they are changing my life for the better. And I want to be like a tool of the universe to spread them.
To help others too.
To help others like these concepts and practices have helped me.
Yeah.
And so like 7 years ago, I left my corporate career and I started doing what I do. Yeah. So the very first tool that I like to talk about is, you might have heard about it before, is acceptance. Mm-hmm. Now, if you feel anxiety, in whatever shape or form it's coming, like typically, for the present, it might be stress for some situation that you're going through. For the future, it might be fear for something that might or might not happen. And for the past, it might be regret for something that you wish you had done or you wish you hadn't done in the past. On all these different situations in our life create anxiety. So the first thing, accept it. Don't block it, don't deny it, don't ignore it, which is what we've actually been taught to say, to do.
The natural instinct is to block it immediately, isn't it? I don't want these negative feelings, I don't want to feel bad, so trying to block it so hard.
I would say it's even more than natural. It's what they've told us.
Exactly. We've learned as a
I mean, how many times have you heard someone to you or someone to someone else say, "Man up, man up"?
Yeah, exactly.
Which is like the opposite of what we should man down.
Yeah.
And so, first of all, it is happening to you.
Yeah.
Accept it.
Yeah.
And if you don't accept it, if you try to block it or ignore it, At best, it will just stay. At worst, your, like the never-ending voice in your head will make it bigger.
Yeah.
So remind yourself that you're doing the best you can with the tools you have. Yeah. So you're going through a situation in your life, professional or personal life, that is generating this anxiety inside you. It's okay. Okay, so remind yourself, in the years, your brain has gone through different experiences, have developed different tools, and you're doing the best you can now with those tools. So even physically, if you want, give yourself like a physical hug.
It's a good one to remember.
Or metaphorical, whatever, but accept that. Now, from the scientific point of view, what is happening is that you're releasing oxytocin.
During that hug.
During that moment of acceptance.
Yeah.
From the spiritual perspective, what you're doing is you're actually creating a space of wisdom and empathy inside you, from which you can observe what you're going through, and from which you can help yourself.
So instead of running away from it, instead of blocking it, you're facing it basically, and it's helping.
Yes,
that's essentially what's happening.
Face it, but no, it's not without antagonism. It's like, okay, I'm doing the best I can with the tools I have. At Wise Humanity, we call this concept radical empathy. Even like more famous people like Brené Brown recently accepted and embraced this radical empathy idea. And there's studies now showing that it's an approach that helps you have a more productive, creative, and effective attitude to whatever is happening in your life in that moment. And it puts you in the present moment. And this is also another very important concept. The present moment is the moment where you have power. There's nothing you can do in the past. There's nothing you can do in the future until it becomes present. So acceptance and telling yourself, okay, I'm going through this. These are the tools I have. My body is reacting in this way. My mind is reacting in this way. That's okay. I'm going to handle this. It puts you in the present. It empowers you. And from this place, you can take action. And your emotions can flow. And for example, anxiety is not necessarily always negative. Like in this moment, for example, I feel a bit anxious. Like this morning when I was walking here.
I can second that. You can see the sweat dripping everywhere.
And a little adrenaline is fine.
Yeah.
And it puts your body, your brain is telling your body, okay, rise to the challenge. And it keeps you awake and present, again, responsive. And so a little adrenaline may not necessarily be something negative all the time. A little anxiety may not necessarily be something negative all the time. But you only realize that the moment you accept it.
Yes.
Because if you try to block it or ignore it, then you're just in this fight between your mind and something that is actually already happening to you.
Yeah, that's true. Tends to just struggle.
So one practical tool that I like to share with you now about acceptance is one that I learned many years ago when I went through my first personal growth course. 15 years ago, when I was doing an executive MBA at London Business School, and one of the courses that used to be available back then was about leadership and personal growth. But it was mostly based on Eastern philosophies, so it was very different. And but I actually realized, like a couple of years later, I realized, oh my God, these tools are helping me a lot. So there's one of these tools that I like to share in the form that I learned it back then from the professor that used to teach that course. So, but it's also based on some neuroscientific mechanism of our brain. Now, when something bad happens to you, the badness is not in the event. Our body, our mind starts ourselves. We start suffering from it, not the moment it happens, but the moment we label it bad.
Makes sense. Yeah.
And it makes sense, of course, because, you know, like we go through, I don't know, both of us, we are stuck in the tube and we're late, both of us, you know, we're colleagues, we're going to a meeting, and we will react in different ways because the label that we will stick to the event will be different.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the badness is actually in the label and not in the event. Events are neutral. So this tool that I'm talking about goes beyond the think positive or look at the bright side, typical advice that you receive, right?
Usually there's always this look at the silver lining.
Yeah,
isn't it?
exactly. Look at the silver lining.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but you know, if a good friend tells me, "Oh, look at the silver lining," or "Oh, you'll be fine," I'm sure my friend is coming from really good intentions, but how much does that really help me? And if someone tells me, don't think, you know, like look at the silver lining, but don't look at the gray cloud, the first thing I do is I think of the gray cloud.
Of course, yeah.
Don't push that button.
Yeah. That's exactly where the thoughts go, isn't it? The thing that you shouldn't be looking at or thinking of, the mind goes there immediately.
So how can I embrace this concept that facts are neutral, and then I shouldn't hurry into labeling them as negative, which would then trigger my suffering, my anxiety, and my stress. So I'll tell you a little story from, again, from Eastern tradition. There are many versions of this story, but anyway, I'll use the one that I learned 15 years ago. So let's go back to the Middle Ages. There's this farmer in a village, and he wants to invest. He wants to change his life. He wants to invest in. He has a bit of land. He wants to improve his farming, and he borrows money from all the neighbors, and buys a stallion that will help him in farming. And then that night, there's a big storm, the stallion gets scared, he manages to run away from the stable, and the next day, all the neighbors go to the farmer and say, "Oh, look at you, you wanted to change your life, your stallion now's gone, and you're destitute, you still owe us money." And he shrugs his shoulders and says, "Well, good thing, bad thing, who knows?" He then goes for a walk in the woods to recollect his thoughts, and he bumps into his stallion that is actually eating grass together with another 9 horses, wild horses.
Wow.
So he catches them all, brings them back to the farm, builds a stronger stable, and by all standards now, I mean, he's a rich man with 10 horses. So all the neighbors go to the farmer and say, "Oh, look at you, we thought you were destitute, but now you're so rich and you're gonna change your life and it will be great." And the farmer shrugs his shoulders and says, "Good thing, bad thing, who knows?" Then the next day, the farmer and the son are taming the horses. The son falls off a horse and breaks a leg, and the leg heals crooked. Oh. And all the neighbors go to the farmer and say, "Oh, look at you, had such a fine son, and now his leg is crooked, he won't be able to help you at work, he won't find a good spouse, poor you." And the farmer shrugs his shoulders and says, "Good thing, bad thing, who knows?" And
it's amazing how calm he remains.
Yes.
Sorry.
And then the next day, things happen fast. The next day, the king of that kingdom declares war to a neighboring kingdom, and all the youths need to go to war except the son of the farmer, because he has a crooked leg. Yeah. So all the neighbors go to the farmer and say, "Oh, how lucky you are, our sons went to war, we don't know if we'll ever see them again, but your son is here with you." And the farmer shrugs his shoulders and says, "Good thing, bad thing, who knows?" And the story goes on forever. Yeah. But the point of the story is, we really don't know. Whatever, undesirable situation has happened in your life today, we really don't know what this will trigger. Yeah. What will happen next. So go beyond think positive. facts are indifferent.
Yeah.
They happen.
Yeah.
And you don't know what will happen next. So don't rush into labeling like bad and which will trigger your suffering.
Yeah.
Say, good thing, bad thing, who knows? This happens when you lose your job, when there was a project you were so passionate about and it gets rejected. You didn't get a promotion. You broke up with your partner. You had a really bad fight with someone in your family, a loved one. And yes, that was an undesirable situation. There is an undesirable situation, but don't let the stress about it, the suffering about it, get you stuck in that situation. Then think of what is a possible chain of events, like with the farmer? What is a possible chain of events that will take me away out of this situation? And a feasible one, I don't know about the future, but what is a feasible chain of events that will take me out of this situation to an even better place? What is the first thing that I can do to set that chain of events in motions and then go out and do it? So this is a really powerful tool that puts together acceptance and also unsticking yourself from whatever situation you feel stuck in. Sometimes anxiety, fear, they paralyze us.
They do.
And we end up spending a lot of time in our head and we don't know what to do. And this simple tool is really can get us out of where this stuck situation. And
sounds amazing. I wish I had the calmness and the coolness of the farmer in those situations. The usual. But I'll take this on board. I've learned something new today, and it's quite. The story is also amazing. I mean, it's just like you said. It could be bad in that moment, but literally, there will be a turn of events, and it could be for the better. And there's always.
Like again, you lose your job, and then you find, that of course that moment is unsettling, of course, and I accept that. So give yourself permission to be unsettled. It's okay. It's happening. You're using your best tools to go through that moment. But then it may really, you may end up finding a much better position, or you may end up finding a much better partner. And it happens, I'm sure. I mean, I have stories around that from my personal life, and I'm sure it happens to most people.
Absolutely. I think a lot of times people also fail to recognize that those things happen. Like sometimes people are so stuck up on the negative events that just the hurt kind of blinds everything else that happens. So good things might be happening later on, but they still think about those bad events and think that was horrible, instead of thinking those happened and now I'm here because of those events.
The first time I lost I was working for I was working in different corporations, and there was a massive restructuring. I lost my job. It was the very first time in my life that I found myself without a job. And so it's more than 10 years ago now, and I didn't react well.
Of course.
I panicked.
Of course.
I panicked, and I also remember that summer was amazing in London, one of the rare ones, and I didn't enjoy it because I was so stressed. And then at some point, I was doing all the right things. I was looking for another job. I was going interviews. I was doing networking events. I was doing all the right things, but I was putting so much unnecessary pressure on myself. And then when I realized, okay, that's fine. I'm really doing the right things, and I'll find another job when it happens. But I can't do more than this. I'm actually making my life miserable. And probably I wasn't even helping myself in the interviews with that attitude.
Of course.
And then I calmed down and I started, I had a good time. I booked holidays, and then I found a job, and I was much happier even than the previous position. So of course that is an undesirable situation. So I'm not denying that. But don't put all that misery on yourself. So it's the labeling that starts our suffering.
Yeah.
So this is about the present. I don't know how much time we have still, but
We have. I have to check my phone here. We've got some more time. We've got
no, okay.
some time,
Maybe
yeah.
I'll,
a little bit more. Yeah.
well, just two quick
Yes,
things.
yeah,
One-
yeah, of
one-
course, absolutely.
So I won't go through a long story, but just two tools. One about the future and one about the past.
Yeah.
And the one about the future, fears. Okay, fears makes us anxious.
Yeah.
And we do so many things out of fear, or don't do many things out of fear. Even just when we write an email, oftentimes we write it with fear
Yeah.
about the reaction that we will trigger, or if we want to achieve something, whatever action, whatever is a project, a work, or whatever. Often we are led by the fear of not achieving it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And we do or not do things, and fear often holds us back. So a powerful question that you can ask yourself is, what would I do if I had no fear?
Yeah. That's a good one. That's a really good one. Yeah.
Because the fear itself doesn't give me any additional information about the likelihood of that event to happen or not, the event that I'm fearing to happen or not.
It might all just be also taking place in your head, isn't it? It might.
does.
There's a chance it might not take place.
And what it says, it tells me something about a self-limiting belief that I have, that I will not be able to handle the consequences, or that I'm actually blowing the consequences out of proportion.
Yeah.
So a powerful question is, what would I do if I had no fear? And then I'm not advocating you go and do it.
Yeah.
But just by asking that question, you put it says a complete new world that enters the realm of your possibilities.
Yeah. Totally different perspective.
And again, it puts you, going back to what I said at the very beginning, that it creates in your mind, in your consciousness, a place of wisdom where you can observe what is happening to you with more wisdom and empathy. And from there, the decisions that you make from there are always more effective because they're based on a more peaceful you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And one thing about the past, is so oftentimes we are overwhelmed by a sense of responsibility and regret, often, for, again, something we wish we'd done differently. Or how many times have you replayed in your head
Oh God, yes.
a conversation that you had?
Yeah.
And you think, oh, I should have said that. I shouldn't have said that, or I should have said that.
It's living in your head.
And sometimes we get to the point where we say, okay, my whole life would have changed if I hadn't done that.
Yeah.
So so the concept that I like to bring up now is that of responsibility, but in the core meaning of that word, ability to respond. Again, regret or a sense of guilt keeps us stuck in the past. Yes, we were responsible for what we did or we didn't do. That's fine. There's nothing we can do in the past anymore. So what is my ability to respond today?
That's a good one.
Again, I take full responsibility. Actually, I'm taking more responsibility this way than by spending hours replaying past events in my head and not doing anything. Or just beating up myself but not doing anything. Again, being stuck in that regret or in that guilt. And again, what is my ability to respond now? Bring back all the power to the present, and I take full responsibility of it, and I act. And I let go of the past, not because I don't take responsibility, but just because I stop letting it hold me back.
Yeah, that's a really good one too. So some really powerful tools there that you have shared with us today. Shall we take a look at some of the questions you have
Yes,
received?
absolutely.
Let's take a look at some of the... Let me see if I know how to... If I can see this. I can't see the chat box. Let me quickly have a look here. So quickly, oops, pop one here. We have one question here. Is anxiety medication just a placebo, or does it actually help?
Okay, so I'm not a doctor. In general, I always say, I'm personally, but this is more on a personal level. I'm in favor of medications
Yeah.
if at the same time you're also working on your emotional hygiene tools.
Yes.
So you're also working on growing and expanding
Yeah.
your toolkit.
Yeah.
And we go through life with our toolkit.
Yeah.
We call them, I was reminded, we call them mental maps.
Yeah.
But you can, I'm sure you heard about the power of narratives.
Yeah.
Now, we create stories in our head of how the world works, who I am, who the people around me are, how they should behave, how I should behave, etc.
Yeah.
And how I judge everything. So we use these mental maps. And whenever we're going through a situation that is troubling us and we seem like not to have the tools to handle it, it means that one of our mental maps is not helping us. Mm-hmm. So we need to work on that. We need to work on a change in our toolkit.
Yeah.
And again, in general, so if there's some difficult situation you're going through and the doctors prescribe a medication to you, take it. But at the same time, don't think that is the only thing you can do.
Yeah. Are there any coping methods you can recommend to deal with anxiety? Are there any tips you can provide managers to support team members dealing with anxiety? To be more specific.
Well, the one about acceptance, I think, is important. And when we work a lot with companies as well, and we teach everyone tools to accept themselves, but exactly the same concepts actually help me accept other people.
Yeah.
Other people's emotions, other people's struggles. So this one of acceptance is, okay, I can do it with you. If I'm your boss, I can still do, okay, I understand that you're going through this moment, and I understand that you're doing the best you can with the tools you have. So I can give you permission to take a little moment and feel safe. I'll give you permission to go and create a moment where you feel safe, where you can, give your physical or metaphorical hug, and relax, pause for a moment. And it's fine that you're going through what you're going through.
So that understanding between the managers and the employees, that itself creates a level of safe space.
Yes, it's acceptance of our humanity.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And in the office, many times we end up just performing actions or roles, but the human underneath is fundamental. And the more AI or technology progresses, the more important the human part is.
Of course, absolutely. How can you successfully identify fear, and what can we do to work through our fears?
Okay, I'll give you a bit extreme tool.
Let's go for it.
So there is a model of emotions where there are like more than 100 emotions in the human. We can recognize more than 100 emotions in our body. There's another model that only has 2.
Okay.
Love and fear. So how can you recognize fear? Ask yourself if whatever you're doing, like a conversation with a dear one, an email, a conversation with a colleague, are you doing it out of fear or out of love? And you can always, these are, it takes some practice, okay, if you're not used to this model. But you can always see which one of the 2 things is more prevalent. Are you doing out of expansion and growth, or are you doing out of survival and protection? So you can always recognize if there's some fear in whatever you're doing. And then again, if there's some fear, say, okay, what is the self-limiting belief about myself that I have in this moment? What is a alternative empowering belief that I can embrace? What would I do if I had no fear? And how would I do it?
That's a really good one. We're slowly coming to an end with our time. Davide, thank you so much for sharing your expertise and insights with us. It's been such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much, Jackson. I hope this was helpful.
This was absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. We hope we can welcome you back again for more insights, for for more tips. To all our attendees, to find out more about Vice Humanity and to check out the various workshops, courses, boot camps and coaching available, have a look at vicehumanity.org, right?
Yes, correct.
Is there anything else you would like to add? Like if they need any help, if they need any practical tips, where can they contact you? Is it just to the website?
So we have we publish blogs and vlogs as well. So and there's a lot of great tools there. We call it our toolkit, and you can subscribe to it, and also you can get in touch through the website. There's an info at email address that we always reply to.
And you also do boot camps for companies, but you also do one-on-one coaching for private?
We do one-on-one coaching. We do programs for individuals that we put together in cohorts. We work with companies, and recently I started teaching at university as well. It's not one of your institutions.
Not yet, but hopefully.
Ravensbourne.
Ravensbourne, yes.
Yes. So this year I've already run 2 courses there.
Amazing. Davide, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure
Jackson.
to have you here for Mental Health Awareness Week. Thank you everyone for attending, and see you soon. Goodbye.